to Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 teaser. And there is not a ton here.
No.
Straight out the gate, which I think is smart, actually.
It's a legitimate teaser.
Yeah. It's basically, there's going to be a movie. Yeah. It's going to be a sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's going to have all the people you like.
Yeah, and it's going to have the same flavor of what you like, but it might be a little more serious and a little more epic.
And it might be the exact same thing you saw before, because that's what we're telling you with the song we're using, is we have no originality, and we're just going to do the same thing you already liked because you liked it and you're going to take it.
Boy,
to be fair, the rest of the trailer looks good.
I
hate the song.
I'm of two minds about that whole thing. I didn't expect that, and I was disappointed by it, I suppose. Not to be too horribly critical of the advertising of, like, this is what I wanted for how you sell me your movie. But it, I think the fear is probably, if we make it any other song other than something that was in that other movie, it's gonna feel like a different flavor, and we don't want that.
No, you do. It's a sequel. You want a slightly different flavor.
But in selling it, like,
when somebody at work first told me that trailer came out, my first question is, what's the song?
No, absolutely.
And then he went home and he told his girlfriend, and the first question she asked him was, what's the song?
Okay, fair enough.
I think that is everyone's thought going into this trailer.
You know what? That's a really good call. Is that maybe they're not. Maybe they're thinking people are stupider than they are. We're like they're expecting the masses to be like, I want exactly the same movie, and they're not delivering that. We know details about this that immediately makes it a very different film.
Maybe details we shouldn't have had.
Maybe so. I don't want to know that his dad is that planet before we go to see the movie. And sorry if I spoiled that. I'm sorry if I spoiled that for you, but
Star-Lord's dad is a planet. Played by Kurt Russell.
What's his name?
Ego.
Is it? I almost said Mego, which is totally different.
Well, what you're probably thinking of is Mongo?
Mongo, which is the Green Lantern thing. Yeah. And then I turned it into Mego, which is action figure dolls from the 70s. Mm-hmm. Anyways.
Let's run down what we learned in this trailer. Star-Lord's going to be in it. Gamora's going to be in it.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Drax is going to be in it. Yondu's coming back.
Really, the main thing I think that we get from this is just... or that it's trying to tell us anyway, is the relationships between these characters has progressed, and they're like...
That's true. We get one talking scene, and it's really nice. We both kind of laughed. It's well done.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
It's got the heart that first film had.
I do like the minimalism of it.
Yeah.
Certainly. Well, it's really just the song I'm questioning. Like I said, I'm of two minds about it, but then... I'm going to go back to that for a minute, because I don't think we're done with that. Mm-hmm. You make a really good point, because, you're making a really good case for it should have been something else, because it's called Volume 2, and that's a story thing. You get to the end of that movie, and he finally opens that
This should have been our first look at Volume 2, the soundtrack. Yeah,
because the music is the big thematic and character through line for him. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're calling it Volume 2 instead of 2.
And this is a second story. Or with, all the other Marvel movies, aside from the Iron Mans, haven't done 2. They've done a subtitle.
Yes.
That's why we don't have subtitles.
It's got to be something else. Now, you do have to wonder moving forward, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, how in the world we do a Volume 3
I asked that question when they announced it, and I don't know if they necessarily do. We could have Guardians of the Galaxy War of Kings, or Guardians of the Galaxy,
maybe don't make it another volume thing, because you really don't want them to contrive some way that she gave him a third tape.
No.
But it's possible.
That'd be a mistake.
But could somebody else make a mixtape? I guess that's possible.
I think if we get a third mixtape, the only possible way you can play it is that he makes his own. Yeah. And it might be... It could be nice and touching if he got to go back to Earth, and one of the first things he does is make a mixtape. Yeah. I could see that. I don't think in this movie he goes back to Earth. I don't think so.
But could happen. I don't know anything. I don't know too much. And beyond the planet thing, I do think that they're doing an okay job of keeping things under their hat now, but I wish I didn't know that.
He's got a big... Which he has in the comics.
That's great. It'll be interesting to see what the explanation is for that. For why it has changed. I don't
think there will be one.
Oh, no, there will be.
You think so?
Oh, I guarantee you there will be. Because it looks different. I mean, they'll explain that.
I feel
they tend to come up with clever explanations for stuff like that.
I feel like there will be a joke about it, and then we will find out that is how it naturally grows, and he like sands it down like Hellboy does with his horns.
That doesn't make any sense. It's a piece of technology. We know what it is.
Do we?
Yes.
Okay,
that is the technology that allows him to do the whistle thing.
Oh, I thought it was just a piece of his head.
That's why it lights up. So he got that implanted. And when he whistles, it lights up, and it is a telekinetic device that allows him to move that dart through the air and kill people with it.
Okay, well
so the technology has changed then. He's gotten an upgrade.
He can do, like, a bunch of arrows this movie.
Probably, yeah. But there will be an explanation for it. It's technology.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that or didn't remember that.
It took me a couple viewings to even remotely pick up on it.
Okay.
And I have confirmation of it even beyond that, because I met... what is his last name?
Rucker?
Yes.
Roker?
I met him at a convention, and I saw him explain it to a little kid.
Oh, okay. And you were that child?
No. But, I mean, I knew it already, but I watched Michael Rooker explain it. Did you know that he's the guy from, what is that movie where he plays a psychopath? It's just the most mortifying thing I've ever seen, ever. And I can't, the name of it's not suddenly coming to me, but I didn't realize that was him until I went there with Vince to this convention, because that was the main reason. Oh, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
That's Michael Rooker. Anyway, so moving right along.
His little minion guy's not there, but he'll be there because he's the director's brother.
So, how much time has passed between these movies? Like, are we still going linear like we have with the Marvel movies? Because I don't see how if Groot is still a tiny plant.
Yeah, it's got to be real soon after.
Unless some time passes. I could see it opening...
Groot gets blown up again?
Or I could see it... No, what I'm saying is, I could see it opening with a scene that happens shortly thereafter, and then skipping ahead after that.
And we get Big Groot.
And then we get Big Groot again. I think that's likely.
Little Groot is maybe the thing I'm most worried about. I'm worried that'll be way too cutesy and...
And I don't want it to be the whole movie.
No.
And I don't want it to be a thing where, like, they contrive a way for him to suddenly sprout up real hard in an action scene.
Yeah. I
could see them doing that. I mean, if it's a contrivance I buy, maybe that's fun. But then isn't that just kind of Ant-Man to Giant Man again?
Yeah.
If we do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be Ant-Man to Giant Man.
Well, that's true. I guess we didn't have that.
But the thing is...
Ben Grimm.
Because I'm of two minds about the first film. I don't think it's a particularly great movie.
I think I like it more than you do.
Yeah, well, I don't know if anybody knows this. I'm explaining for the...
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, I don't think we've talked about this all that much.
I don't think it's a particularly great film. I think it's a movie that's a little shallow with its characters and really shallow with its plot that gets by on charm. And the problem is, if you're not charmed by it, that movie doesn't work at all.
No, that's absolutely true. Some movies just aren't for everybody.
But some movies you can at least be like, well, on some level of objectivity, that's still good. It's just not for me. This isn't that.
I feel like it does work on that level to some degree.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I feel like if the jokes don't land with you, that's just not a good movie.
I feel like Star-Lord has an okay character arc. I haven't written about this yet.
So you don't.
And so I'm not real prepared to get into all that, but
I enjoy the film.
Yeah.
I have this thing. It's mostly with humor. I get real sick and tired of things. Seeing jokes, hearing jokes over and over again. And this was a movie that exploded into culture.
Yeah.
And everyone wouldn't stop quoting it.
And forgive me if this is unfair. I assume that part of the reason you didn't like it as much as me is just because you were too affected by the hype.
I wasn't super hyped for it.
No, I mean after that it was too popular.
Oh,
and
sure.
And that made it hard for you to enjoy
that absolutely probably makes it a little better.
That affects me with some things. It didn't as much with this.
Well, and
mostly because I thought it was culturally fascinating.
It's a thing. It's this really interesting thing that I have with this film.
I've never seen a thing like that where a year before that I could have reviewed comics and no one would care.
Yeah.
I mean, it just fascinating to me that all of a sudden, and it's not the same thing as Ant-Man. Ant-Man, they make a movie and he remains a B-C list character. Mm-hmm. These become mainstream. Yeah. They're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
One of the weirdest things ever was my family and I were at dinner, and my little sister, who's 12, refers to Peter Quill
Yeah.
Not even Star-Lord.
Peter Quill.
She says Peter Quill.
We're at a place now where you could ask someone, anybody on the street, name a Peter from the Marvel Universe, and you'll most of the time get Spider-Man, but you could end up with Star-Lord. That never would have happened before.
No. I couldn't have done that before.
When the movie came out, I went out and bought my son a stuffed Rocket Raccoon, just because I couldn't believe such a thing existed. And I mean, he loved that. And actually, I think I bought it for him the second time we went, because I took him to it twice, and I bought it for him so he could bring it with him to the theater. And I was like, I have to have this because I cannot believe such a thing exists. So, I think that's a good way to segue into this question, which I just feel like we've got to ask. Which
wait. I was getting to a grander point.
Go ahead.
I was getting to a grander point. So, my whole point was, I wanted to kind of put out there, there's this weird thing with this film where I don't particularly like this film until I watch it. Yeah. While I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
But like once it stops,
you can't decide about watching it.
Yeah. But once I watch it, I really enjoy the movie. I mean, Chris Pratt's great. Yeah. He's just inherently likable.
I think pretty much everybody's okay, and like, I don't generally like Zoe Saldana. I thought even she was okay.
I think she's the weak link of the cast, but she's still good.
She's decisively a different character from the one in the comics, and she's the only character like that. Everybody else is the comic character, at least of the modern, current comics.
Yeah. But
sorry.
Well, my whole grander point of going through this was, regardless of my feelings about the film, because I was going to start with that, and I'm like, well, nobody knows my feelings about the film. And we're talking about doing a commentary, so we might get more into this.
Yeah, we should do that.
Now is the time.
Seize the day.
Carpe diem. But my whole point was, regardless of all of that, the first movie has one of the best teaser trailers ever put out.
Yeah.
This film did as well as it did. The first film did as well as it did because that trailer showed up and said, we're here and we are our own thing, and you didn't see us coming. You'll never see us coming.
Yeah.
This should have done the same thing. And it's the same kind of trailer the way it's cut. That song really undercuts. It makes it feel like, I feel like that song unintentionally says, we are going to do the same thing we had before. We got nothing new for you. And I think some people might even subconsciously take
But we've got
way.
time, and I don't think that makes people disinterested to the point where they all leave.
No, I don't think so either.
You see what I'm saying?
I think it's the wrong foot to start on, though.
I'm not sure until I see what the rest of the marketing looks like. I'm not ready to say that. It might have been smart, because here's the problem. You don't want to make people think that you've gone from Buffy Season 2 to Buffy Season 6.
No, and I'm not saying they should do that.
No, but depending on what movie they have, it could have been difficult to cut a trailer that doesn't look like that.
Okay, but I'm just talking about the song.
Well, that's true, but that might have been them overcompensating. I mean, I'm not saying that was the right move.
No, because this trailer is cut very similar to that first one, where it's a lot of quick shots. It's actually maybe less action, because I think that first teaser had...
No, using that song again is real counterintuitive.
Yeah, no, that was all I was talking about, was the choice of the song.
Yeah.
I think that's starting off the right foot and maybe suggesting to people...
On the wrong foot.
Is that what I said?
No, you said right foot.
The wrong foot.
Yeah.
And maybe suggesting to people, we got nothing new for you. But the trailer itself doesn't look like anything in the first movie. It looks bigger. It looks cooler. And the only moment we get of talking is really heartfelt and genuine.
And of course, you can make the argument, well, we're using that song because that's the scene they want to use, and that song is in that scene.
Maybe.
Well, but I mean, that's clearly what they're doing. We see a lot of trailers like this where you have the music that seems like it's there just to sell the trailer, and then it turns out to be incidental. And this is that. It goes into the scene and it's incidental. But, so they've decided to have him still listening to the first tape again in places. That doesn't mean that that's the way they should have sold it. I'm just saying.
That's just my thing. Okay, so you were getting to another point.
But there's also no reason that you can't, take that music out of that scene and then have it in the movie later. You can... Yeah. You can just take it out of that scene.
I wouldn't mind if you hear that song in a scene or something. It's the trailer.
Well, yeah, you could play a different song and then stop that song and then, we're hearing Hooked on a Feeling again. Okay, that's the song they sold that movie on in the first place. That would have been smart.
Or doing it the other way. Starting with Hooked on a Feeling, you hear the clip.
And I thought for sure that's what they were going to do. Because before I saw it, you told me that you were like, I hate the song. And when it opened, I was like, surely he's talking about whatever song they end up going to, and then it never did, and I was like, wow, that's surprising.
Yeah.
No, I'm wondering if this ends up being as big of a deal as the first one.
I don't know.
You know,
I think if it's good, it has the potential to be.
You know, absolutely. But I mean, like, you know, it's tough with a thing like this because, you know, sort of like Avengers, like, you can't, like, lightning's not going to strike twice. Like, you don't have the novelty of this is the first time you've seen something like this.
And that was a big problem with Avengers 2 for most people.
For most people, yeah.
One of the most common things that you heard in reviews, or I heard in reviews, was, well, it didn't have that magic the first film had. It's like, well, of course it can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think...
And so you don't want people to be like, well, I was really surprised and taken aback by the first one. It was like, you know, finally getting this generation's Star Wars or something. You heard that a lot.
Well, then this needs to be this generation's Empire Strikes Back. And I don't mean it has to be darker. But the only reason that Star Wars has continued on the way it has is because they didn't make a traditional sequel. They made the next chapter or a completely different story for Empire. And
I can tell you, there is... And like, I hope I don't go back to this video later and eat my words, but this, there is no doubt in my mind that this movie is not a carbon copy of the first one.
Yeah, well...
I don't think there's any way in the world James Gunn did that.
I don't think so. I'm hoping not.
Now, he could lean too much on some of the same kinds of jokes from the first movie. That could be a problem. But I really think story-wise and structure-wise and stuff, I don't think there's any way it's a carbon copy of what
And
we
I
had
think
before.
this has all the potential to maybe even be better. Because
absolutely,
I know
sure.
one thing that he has come out and said is...
It certainly helps that you already have your team together.
Yeah, well, and he's come out and said that he dropped the ball in the villain in the first one, and he's not going to do that in this one. And the villain is...
I guess that's nice that you said that. That's not a thing that bothered me like it did other people, because that's just not a movie.
It doesn't bother me
either
in that movie, but it's nice to know that in the sequel, when you can't do a team getting together movie, it's not also going to be
have a compelling bad guy.
Yeah. I forget who the bad guy is. It's somebody. It's a girl.
Is it somebody we know?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up.
She's a cosmic somebody.
Well, we already had Nebula, so it's not her.
No, I'm trying to remember.
Wasn't that Nebula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and she's in this. She's in the trailer.
Oh, I didn't notice her. Cool.
She's the one with the mechanical face.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Neat. I'm glad they're continuing that. And we know Thanos isn't anywhere to be found.
I mean, we don't know that.
No, we do. They've come out and said he's definitely not in this.
Okay.
I thought I read that.
I'm not... Okay. I got... Yeah.
Which a lot of people... Well, people made a big deal out of it because we're getting so much closer to Infinity War. People were surprised by that. Mm-hmm. They figured you make another Guardians movie before Infinity War and we haven't set up all the gems yet. People thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But you don't let this be about the gems again or about really any physical MacGuffin. I'm really hoping that...
No.
And, like, it's a little tough with Guardians because they're scavengers and stuff. You know, they're like, Star-Lord's all about, you know, gaining wealth and stuff, so... They're going to be after monetary things, but like Firefly, it's not like every Firefly episode was about, like, this thing we're going after.
Yeah. And if it's a thing, it should be trivial, and a complete MacGuffin, it should not be power.
Universe breaking?
Yeah. And I don't think it will be. I don't know. I have no idea. Once they announced who Star-Lord's dad was, I was like, oh, they're upping their insanity.
Yeah.
They're genuinely going to places that I did not expect.
Mm-hmm.
Because my big thing was...
You'll be as close to Douglas Adams as you can get without going Douglas Adams.
Well, it's more action-packed. But they cast Kurt Russell, and we knew he was Star-Lord's father, and I was like, well, he's got to be Adam Warlock. We describe him as a beam of light, and then Warlock's kind of like Space Jesus, like there's a light component there. He kind of looks like Adam Warlock. Surely Kurt Russell is Adam Warlock. We don't see him in this, and I thought he was going to be in this. I mean, this is just a teaser.
So, have we been told, like, is he just voicing a big planet, or is it a planet that becomes human?
No, it has to be a planet that becomes human, because they've said he has a costume.
I love they're saying that and not talking any more about it. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That you would not elaborate on that. He's a planet... and has a costume.
Yeah.
I imagine something very different from whatever they're going to do. But if they do that, okay. It's like, well, he's going to be a man wearing a cheeseburger costume. Anyway,
I immediately like the look of it.
Yeah.
It looks bigger. It looks more epic. It looks like the movie that the first movie opens as.
Yeah, that's a great point. Sure, and then it gets quirky and jokey and stuff.
Yeah, and
it will still be that. But
exactly goes back to that look.
I imagine it getting a little bit heavier, and if it does what I'm hoping it does, it's got the potential to win people over who didn't care for the first one.
Yeah.
You know, who said it was too cheesy at the end, and
yeah,
they didn't like the like really in your face friendship message of the everybody touching each other to make the gem thing work and
yeah.
all of that.
I think it's got potential better than the first one.
Yeah,
and I mean, one of the big things with Guardians for me watching that first movie was like everybody says like it's the Star Wars for a generation, but like there's not a lot of movies outside of Star Wars that are even comparable in that genre. I like that we have a big space cosmic thing.
Yeah.
And that it did well enough to get a sequel. That's never happened before outside of Star Wars.
That's a good point. And it's weird that Disney is making both of them.
Yeah. Well, and it's got such a different tone. Which is the thing I was worried about with Force Awakens. That would have too much of a
Guardians-type tone.
Guardians-type tone. Not exactly a Guardians-type tone.
Well, and this is neither here nor there, but one of the reasons that I didn't expect anything from Star Trek Beyond is because
they said they were doing the
allegedly, apparently the big note to Simon Pegg from Paramount was make it like Guardians. That's not what that movie is.
No, it's nothing like Guardians.
I don't think. I mean, it's jokey in the way Star Trek is jokey.
Yeah, and Simon Pegg's writing would just naturally be jokey.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it's jokey in the way that like TOS, when it was funny, was funny. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I think we touched on everything.
Yeah, so pretty much.
I'm excited. I'm not like super excited. I mean, this doesn't give me anything. I might be more excited if it was a better song, but
yeah, well,
or just a different song.
You've really won me over on that. It just wouldn't it have been nice because this is the point I was going to make earlier. They're maybe not giving their audience enough credit where they're going, people who aren't comic fans are going to need to believe that it's not going to get too far away from what you had in the first place. And you made a good point when you said, well, I think they're already kind of doing that enough without not changing the song. People who love that movie, you don't have to be a comic book fan, obviously, because this is not a comic thing. They created this to go, the big motif holding this stuff together is the songs. I want to know what the next song is.
Yeah, well, and it's not like the next tape is going to have like grunge metal on it.
No,
like it's going to be the same
style.
Kind of music.
Well, and we can't emphasize the potential importance of the soundtrack because that went like platinum. I don't know if you know how well that sold.
You've told me, yeah.
That was a year where old music was outselling new music. And I think that's still kind of going on, maybe. I haven't looked at the numbers in a while. But that soundtrack charted #1. It was huge. And it was all old music. And it works as an album. It's wonderful. And they're crazy if they don't try to recreate that.
I agree.
And they can. I mean, that music is still there. There's plenty of other stuff.
Yeah. There's
a couple things that I think people are going to expect on it.
Exactly.
I mean, I shouldn't have said that because now I got to sit here and try to think. Okay. I would have. I kind of expected in the first one. There's the David Bowie song that I thought might be there. Space Oddity, yeah, and that just seems so obvious. I kind of hope they don't go there.
Yeah.
It fits the tone of this and all of that, but
there's a lot of songs like that I feel like you could.
But ever since Chronicle, I can't look at that song the same way. So like, I kind of don't want it there now. But
there's a lot of stuff that I feel like are really obvious picks, and I mean, nothing on the first soundtrack is like things you've never heard of.
Sure. They weren't obscure.
Yeah, but they're.
But you weren't rolling your eyes at yes, of course.
They're not the Suicide Squad soundtrack.
That is a thing that would not work as an album.
No, not at all. That's a 14-year-old's playlist.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing.
And they definitely tried to catch that lightning because of Guardians. I guarantee you that movie doesn't look like that without Guardians.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But I don't think Suicide Squad gets made without Guardians. I think Guardians has something to do with why they picked that. Yeah, because they were thinking, well, we got to do that Marvel thing where you pick an obscure thing nobody's heard of that's mostly comedy-driven.
Marvel had 6 or 7 movies to do it. Though.
I know, but if people keep complaining about they're rushing it, that's part of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's their third movie, and they kind of did that. And it's also sort of anti-heroes, and it's people that are all out for themselves, but they learn teamwork. I mean, there's a million comparisons.
Oh no, I know the movie that they put out is like Guardians, or was trying to be Guardians.
Right, but don't you think that's a lot of why it got made in the first place?
I didn't think of it that way. But I like Suicide Squad, so I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense as a movie. Yeah, let's do it. Well, we make caper movies, make a supervillain caper.
I mean, it seemed like a big risk until I saw it.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, you're trying to do the Guardians thing.
Yeah, but not to just sit here and bash on DC.
No, just that movie, MBBS, and Man of Steel.
Anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it, and we'll see you again shortly with lots more videos here on Geekvolution. I am Captain Logan.
I am Eric.
See you later, folks.